I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in suddenly soggy Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This feeder band from Hurricane Katrina just coming ashore about 10 or 15 minutes ago. And this is what the people down here are worried about. Lots of heavy rain. The wind is not really blowing right now. In fact, it's very calm here in Fort Lauderdale. But if this rain continues, they're worried about flooding because, let's face it, Florida has been swamped this summer. Talking to the folks in the Home Depot behind us, residents of the area, stocking up on a lot of supplies, things like batteries, generator supplies, and that. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone. Morning in Mobile, Alabama, and Hurricane Katrina making landfall about an hour ago in Louisiana, and we're feeling the effects of it here. Obviously, this is tropical storm strength winds, gusts of upwards of 50 miles an hour here. The wind is over 100 miles an hour in Louisiana. Fortunately, it was down to a Category 4 storm before making landfall, but still deadly consequences perhaps for the folks over there towards New Orleans and along Gulfport where we were yesterday. We've got wind that has just been sheeting all day long, blowing horizontal, stinging both of us here, and we're not going to be able to get too mobile here in Mobile today. Sorry, Elliot Abrams, I had to steal that one, but it is nasty here in Mobile as Katrina comes ashore in Louisiana, and the worst is yet to come, folks. We'll give you more reports as we can in Mobile, Alabama. Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in Hollywood Beach, Florida, talking to Lloyd and Mark, our two surfer dudes. And guys, how was it out there?
It was totally awesome. No sharks today either.
Well, that's always good. A little worried about any rip current, though?
Nah, not at all. It's pretty good. We just tested the water a little bit and everything was fine.
It wasn't cold either, like those of us in the north are used to the cold Jersey Shore beaches.
Yeah, that's true. I was just in New England like a few weeks ago. It's freezing up there. The water's nice here, though.
Are you surprised that there aren't more guys out trying to get some last waves in?
I figure like every high school would be out here surfing, but they're not.
You know, we have snow days and we don't get to do much. At least when you get a hurricane day down here, you get a nice chance to come out.
Like hurricane weeks.
All right, guys, thanks a lot, and have fun out there. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone on Hollywood Beach, waiting for Katrina, which is now a Category 1 hurricane. And we were here earlier this afternoon around the lunch hour. This was virtually a deserted beach, but as you can probably tell, the stronger surf has brought out the surfers. Kids telling us that they're enjoying their day off of school today because of the pending arrival of the storm, as they want to get in some surfing here, and who can blame them? Look at the waves. They have intensified over the last few hours. Now, Katrina, as we say, is a mild Category 1 storm. Winds just over 75 miles an hour. Kind of hard to tell when she's going to make landfall. We're saying somewhere between 6 and 8 if it slows down, maybe even later, maybe even stronger by the time the eye gets here to the Fort Lauderdale area sometime later this evening. But we'll continue to bring you reports from South Florida on Hollywood Beach. I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone, and the eye wall of Hurricane Katrina is over Fort Lauderdale. And I'll tell you what, folks, I said this was a mild Category 1 storm in our last report. I lied. We've got winds upwards of 90 miles an hour, and the worst of it is still on the other side of the eye, out over the Atlantic. Should be getting here probably in the next couple of hours. We've got downed trees all over the place. We had to retreat from the beach because of the sandstorm that blew up. A couple of our colleagues from the South Florida stations literally had cameras destroyed because of this combination of wind, sand, and rain. So we're going to get indoors for a little bit. We'll get you a report as the eye comes ashore, but it is getting pretty nasty here in Florida. I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone at the Tri-Rail Station in Dania Beach, Florida, as the backside of Hurricane Katrina is coming ashore. And this is the stronger part of the storm. We came out to try and get a look at some of the damage. Here's a look at what we saw. We didn't have to go far from the hotel to find out why the power is out. Down power lines and power poles, so we're going to be without power probably most of the night as this storm continues to pound Broward County and South Florida. Fort Lauderdale area here getting the worst of it, and we'll have one more update for you and then be back in the morning. In Fort Lauderdale, I'm Steve Penstone, AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone. Morning after Katrina in Fort Lauderdale. Behind me is Hollywood Beach, where we filed some of our reports yesterday. And as Vern Horst, our cameraman, pans around, you can see some of the sand that was just whipped around here by the hurricane-forced winds last night. It has made an absolute mess of the barrier islands here. And we've got a report that a boat sank in the intercoastal waterway and has put a oil slick on the intercoastal waterway, so a lot of ecological damage here as well. Tropical storm watch still in effect here on the east coast of Florida, and Katrina is headed north to the Panhandle. That's where we're going. We'll have more reports probably later in the weekend from up in the Florida Panhandle. Right now in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone, and Vern Horst and I have moved over to Florida's Gulf Coast, just outside of Fort Myers right now. Hurricane Katrina out over the Gulf to our south, up to Category 2 strength already, rapidly gaining strength over the bathwater of the Gulf after slamming into Fort Lauderdale yesterday. And the track that AccuWeather is calling for Katrina to take, unfortunately, to the Panhandle. That's where we're going to be headed. Expected to make landfall early Monday morning, perhaps late Sunday night, depending on the speed of Katrina as she moves up through the Gulf. And as you can tell, it's a little windy here in Fort Myers. Basically, you know, some balmy tropical breezes with occasional gusts up to hang onto your hat. And speaking of hats, if somebody in the Fort Lauderdale area happens to find an AccuWeather.com hat, it's yours, folks, because I won't be getting it back anytime soon. We'll have more reports later in the day from further up the Florida Gulf Coast. In Fort Myers, I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone. Friday afternoon in Gainesville, Florida, and of course, it's raining. And this has nothing to do with Katrina. Hey, Gainesville, I hear they have a pretty good college football team here. Some of you might not think that, but anyway. This is just one of those typical afternoon showers that Florida has been getting really all summer long. Katrina well south of us, still pounding the Keys. Ken Reeves back at AccuWeather headquarters in State College telling us that Key West has, this has been the 5th rainiest day in Key West history, and it's still coming down there. Katrina is now up to a strong Category 2, winds of 100 miles an hour. It's moving just a little bit south of west and could impact the oil rigs in the Gulf before it makes landfall. We are expecting landfall somewhere between Pensacola and Biloxi, Mississippi, sometime early on Monday. And Vern and I will be headed up to the Florida Panhandle or Mississippi, depending which way Katrina goes, and we'll bring you reports from the Panhandle as we continue to track Hurricane Katrina. In Gainesville, I'm Steve Penstone, AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in downtown Pensacola on an absolutely beautiful Saturday afternoon. Sunshine, just a bit of a breeze blowing, and it is hot down here. Got my Penn State ice hockey t-shirt on. Doesn't make me feel any cooler, though. But we're going to hear to talk about Katrina. We are on our way towards Biloxi, Mississippi, and Katrina is on its way as well. And boy, I'll tell you what, she has the potential to be catastrophic. We are predicting that she could be a Category 4 or even perhaps a Category 5 storm by the time it gets to the mouth of the Mississippi River sometime on Monday. Folks in New Orleans are going to have to watch out for this one because Katrina simply could be very, very dangerous. And we're going to be bringing you updates. Right now, it is about 390 miles southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi. It's actually lost a little bit of strength down to still a Category 3, but Joe Bastardi and the others back in State College thinking it may just be going over some colder water in the Gulf. As I said, likely to pick up strength and be perhaps a Category 4, even a Category 5 storm by the time it makes landfall sometime on Monday. Stick to AccuWeather.com. We'll be bringing you updates right through the weekend in Pensacola. I'm Steve Penstone. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone on the beach in Gulfport, Mississippi on a beautiful Saturday evening, but about 380 miles to the south of us, right behind me in the Gulf of Mexico, Hurricane Katrina, now Category 3, expected to be a 4, perhaps even a 5 by the time she gets to the Gulf Coast. We'll start to see the effects of it tomorrow, late in the afternoon. The full force of Katrina sometime on Monday, and we are really not sure where it's going to end up. We're thinking still towards New Orleans. New Orleans and the surrounding parishes under evacuation right now. Interstate 10 is 6 lanes coming eastbound from the New Orleans area, I believe westbound as well, heading west, and a lot of concern about beach erosion here all the way from Gulf Shores to the west. Also the oil facilities, especially to the east at Pascagoula, Mississippi. This one is going to be a catastrophic hurricane. As I said, perhaps a 4, even a 5, and we're going to be battening down the hatches, but we'll have reports for you right through the weekend into Monday as best we can. From Gulfport, Mississippi, I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in Gulfport, Mississippi, awaiting the arrival of Hurricane Katrina. And we're going to try and give you an idea of just how devastating this hurricane will probably be. It has the potential to be one of the most devastating in U.S. history. Winds of upwards of 150 miles an hour. A big concern, storm surge and flooding. The storm surge could be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet, perhaps even more. Now let's give you an idea. We're standing on the boardwalk here at the beach in Gulfport. To my right, the Gulf of Mexico and Hurricane Katrina. You can already see the clouds starting to come in. To my left, the Holiday Inn. And it is across the road and about 20 feet or so above where we are standing right now. So you could expect that when the storm surge comes in late tonight and into tomorrow, that first floor that you saw over there at that Holiday Inn may be underwater. So it is the potential to be a catastrophic hurricane. Same situation in New Orleans. The mayor there saying that New Orleans could literally be underwater by late Monday. The evacuations are underway here in the Gulf Coast area, and we're moving out as well. We're going to head a little bit further inland to some safer ground. Right now in Gulfport, Mississippi, I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone on the shoulder of eastbound Interstate 10, just east of Gulfport, Mississippi. And as you can no doubt tell, the evacuation is well underway. We were evacuated out of our hotel. The hotel's closing down in Gulfport in advance of the arrival of Hurricane Katrina. Category 5 storm. This one could be one of the worst storms in U.S. history. Only the 4th Category 5 storm to strike the U.S., and people here are not fooling around. They are getting out of the low-lying areas. New Orleans could be absolutely slammed. We were talking with a chief petty officer at the United States Coast Guard station in Gulfport, and he flat out told me if you have not been to New Orleans, you may never get to New Orleans, and it could just be under a massive amount of water by this time tomorrow. We are headed towards Mobile. We have been evacuated out of Gulfport. We will be filing some reports from the Gulf Coast as Hurricane Katrina approaches, but not expected to make landfall until sometime tomorrow. Just outside of Gulfport, Mississippi on Interstate 10, I'm Steve Penstone, AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone. We are in Biloxi, Mississippi, right on the Gulf Coast, and the evacuation continuing as Katrina gets near shore. We've had reports of the initial rain about 15 miles off of the Louisiana coastline. And I'll tell you what, this continues to be a catastrophic event. The winds now gusting at over 200 miles an hour. Talked to Dr. Joe Sobel about a half an hour ago, and he says if the eye wall goes west of New Orleans, it would be a doomsday scenario for the Big Easy. The damage along here on the coast would be equally as catastrophic, but it's more than just the damage here on the coast from the flooding and the wind. The wind's expected to be huge as far inland as places like Jackson, Mississippi. That's about 90 miles north of here. The rain as well. We're expecting intense rain all the way up into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. Of course, the power's going to be out all over the south. So this thing has the potential to be, as we've been talking about, simply catastrophic. And we'll continue to keep you updated as we head east to get away from the path of Hurricane Katrina. In Biloxi, Mississippi, I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in Dauphin Island, Alabama, at the mouth of Mobile Bay. And the storm surge has started here. The wind obviously has picked up, and we are waiting. We've got lightning overhead. We've got a little bit of everything, a tornado warning in effect here. We're going to be bugging out of here pretty quickly, but obviously Hurricane Katrina is coming to shore. Feeder bands already to the west in Louisiana. The eye still expected to be to the east of New Orleans, and of course we're on the east side of that eye, so we're going to get hurricane strength winds here in Mobile as well. This is getting nasty, and it is only going to get worse, folks. Catastrophic. Hurricane Katrina is very close to landfall. We're expecting landfall sometime tomorrow morning, and we'll try and bring you coverage as best we can. We're going to have to get some rest tonight, but we'll have coverage from Mobile tomorrow. Right now on Dauphin Island, Alabama, I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in Mobile, Alabama, and I'm joined by Slidell, Louisiana resident Joe Gallo. Mr. Gallo, thanks for joining us first.
Quite all right. It's a pleasure to be here and let everybody know exactly what they're going to be in store for in just a matter of the next few hours.
Exactly. You had the circumstance to go through Hurricane Camille in 1969. Can you tell us some of your memories of that?
That was one of the most devastating hurricanes that I've ever seen, that many people have ever seen. People just don't realize the type of destruction that they're going to be in store for. It's one of the most horrendous experiences you'd ever want to see. You see slabs just lying there out in the field where there used to be houses, little small houses, and water pipes sticking up where water is shooting out of them. And people are sitting on that slab actually crying because everything was gone. Their whole life was changed. Lives are going to change. People that think that they're infallible, that can stay out there and sit out something like this, some of those people could lose their lives. It's a life-changing situation. Cities change, towns change, residents change. People that you used to have friends with never want to see it, never want to go through it again, and leave, and you never see them again.
Nothing else needs to be said from somebody who's been through it before. In Mobile, Alabama, I'm Steve Penstone, AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone. Morning in Mobile, Alabama, and Hurricane Katrina making landfall about an hour ago in Louisiana, and we're feeling the effects of it here. Obviously, this is tropical storm strength winds, gusts of upwards of 50 miles an hour here. The wind is over 100 miles an hour in Louisiana. Fortunately, it was down to a Category 4 storm before making landfall, but still deadly consequences perhaps for the folks over there towards New Orleans and along Gulfport where we were yesterday. We've got wind that has just been sheeting all day long, blowing horizontal, stinging both of us here, and we're not going to be able to get too mobile here in Mobile today. Sorry, Elliot Abrams, I had to steal that one, but it is nasty here in Mobile as Katrina comes ashore in Louisiana, and the worst is yet to come, folks. We'll give you more reports as we can in Mobile, Alabama. Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone in Mobile, Alabama, as the wrath of Hurricane Katrina continues. And just to give you an idea how strong the winds are, take a look at this pillar. I don't know if you can see it, Vern, if you can get in close enough. As the wind blows and the gusts pick up, you can actually see the cracks in the concrete expanding as this whole roof above us here at the lobby of outside the lobby of our hotel shifts. These winds are only gusting up at 65 miles an hour. Pascagoula, Mississippi, a gust of 113, even stronger in New Orleans. We've heard part of the roof of the Superdome has been blown off. We've got hotel windows on the upper floors of the hotels in New Orleans have been literally sucked away. The dikes there are being compromised in St. Bernard Parish, I believe, is where the waterways have started to flow into New Orleans, so the worst is yet to come. About 6 more hours of this heavy rain here in Mobile, Alabama. I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone, working off camera right now as Vern Horst and I are hunkered down at our hotel here in Mobile, watching the gray building just across Route 90. Or actually, that is Interstate 65. The roof has been wobbling here the last few minutes as the winds continue to intensify. We had a chance to get out and travel around a bit just to get a look at the impact that Katrina has had. Downtown Mobile is flooded. We weren't able to get down there. We did get down towards the Dog River Bridge near Mobile Bay. The access to it was flooded out. We saw downed trees obviously all over the place, signs being ripped up, and as you can tell, this canopy of trees that we've been driving under in a lot of places, really very dangerous. So we beat feet back to the hotel, and we're going to hunker down through the worst of this right now in Mobile, Alabama, as Hurricane Katrina continues to blow. I'm Steve Penstone for AccuWeather.com. I'm AccuWeather.com News Director Steve Penstone at our hotel in Mobile, Alabama. You know, they say any port in a storm, but I'll tell you what, this place is literally disintegrating around us as Vern pans around. You can see the damage. This is just indicative of what Katrina is doing, and it is even worse to the west. Here in Mobile, the city is under about 10 to 12 feet of water downtown. Further to the west, the storm surge upwards of 20 feet in places like Pascagoula and Gulfport. Katrina continues to move inland, but the storm is still blowing here in Mobile. We'll try and have more for you later. Right now, I'm Steve Penstone in Mobile for AccuWeather.com.